what is space? Space which thought has created is one thing. Space that exists in heaven, in our, what is it? In the universe, space. There must be space for a mountain to exist. There must be space for a tree to grow. There must be space for a flower to bloom. So, what is space, and have we space? Or are we all so limited physically to living in a little apartment, little houses, no space at all outwardly, and therefore, having no space, we become more and more violent?
Yes.
I don't know if you have watched of an evening when all the swallows are lined up on a bar.
Oh, yes.
And how exact spaces they have in between. You follow, sir? Have you? It's
yes,
marvelous,
it's marvelous, yes.
To see this space. And space is necessary. And we have no space physically, more and more population and all the rest of it, and therefore more and more violence, more and more living together in a small flat, 1,000 people, crowded, breathing the same air, thinking the same thing, seeing the same television, reading the same book, going to the same church, believing the same thing. You follow? The same sorrow, the same anxiety, the same fears. My country, all that. So, mind and so the brain has very little space. And space is necessary. Otherwise, I stifle. So, can the mind have space? And there will be no space if there is a direction.
Clearly, yes.
You see, sir?
Of course. Yes, I do.
Huh?
Yes.
There is no space if direction means time. So can the, and when the mind is occupied with family, with business, with God, with drink, with sex, with experience, occupied, filled, there's no space.
That's right. Exactly.
So, when knowledge occupies the whole field of thought, of the mind as thought, there's no space. And thought creates space around itself. As the me enclosed and you enclosed. We and they. So, the self, the me, which is the very essence of thought, has its own little space. And to move out of that space is terror, is fear, is anxiety. Because I'm only used to that little space.
Yes, exactly. That brings us back to the earlier conversation we had when we touched the point of terror.
Yes, that's right.
Amazing.
The not being, and the being is in the little space which thought has created. So thought can never give space.
Of course not.
So, meditation is the freedom, is the freeing of the mind, of its content as consciousness, which creates its own little space. You follow that?
Yes, I do.
So, from that says, is that possible? Because I'm occupied with my wife, my children, my responsibilities. I care for the tree, I care for the cat, I care for this and that. And I'm occupied. World is getting more and more overpopulated. Cities are going more and more, spreading, suburbs and so on. Man is getting less and less space. Mm-hmm. Therefore, driving out animals, killing before. Killing the American Indians, killing the Indians in Brazil and so on. They are doing this, actually going on.
Oh, yes.
And having no space out there, outwardly, except on occasions I go often to the country and see oh my God, I wish I could live here. But I can't because I've got so on. So, can there be space inwardly? When there is space inwardly, there is space outwardly.
Exactly.
Yes. But the outward space is not going to give the inner space. The inner space of mind that is free from occupation, though it is occupied at the moment, with what it has to do, it is occupied. But free, the moment it finishes, it's over. I don't carry the office to my home.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. So space in the mind means the emptying of consciousness of all its content, and therefore the consciousness which thought as the me has created ends, and therefore there is space.
Mm-hmm.
And that space isn't yours or mine, it's space.